What? It's Monday night, guys.
Monday night. That's if I was like 4. Monday night, Sketchy Live. It's Johnny Jalopy with Itty B.
Hey, guys.
Right there.
Welcome to another broadcast.
Yeah, another Monday night in the books already. Boom. Call it good.
Boom.
We're done. It's Monday night, Sketchy Live. You've made it to one of the fun podcast live sketching shows that interacts with you, the audience. So please participate tonight. Be a part of it. We'd love to hear your comments. We'd love to see where you're from. Let us know how the weather is, all that good stuff tonight.
And a neat topic we're going to discuss.
Yeah, tonight we're going to talk about, I'm going to be drawing a little cartoon as we're doing this. And then we may or may not finish, who knows. But tonight's topic, to lower or not to lower. That's the question. And, Eddie B and I got into a discussion of like, why do people do it? What's the purpose? All that kind of good stuff. Why do people raise their stuff? All that. So we got lots to talk about. We hope to hear your interaction and your opinion on the subject matter. It is Sketchy Live Monday. Hit it.
Here we are, Sketchy Live.
I don't like knowing if we're in or not. Hey, when we're drawing, my screen is just sketchable. Hey, by the way, tonight we will be doing a fun little sketch in the Sketchable Plus app.
Yay.
So I think I'm still a Sketchable artisan.
I think so. I don't think they've taken that away from you
They
yet.
haven't said, hey, we don't want you anymore. So I'm going to assume we're still okay. But tonight we're going to be drawing in the Sketchable app. A really cool little Model A pickup truck. And of course, we're going to talk about the subject of lower to not to lower. But before we do that, I'm Johnny Jalopy, hot rod artist, fabricator guy, learning how to do it, all that good stuff. With me is Itty B, my beautiful wife, holding it all together. This is season 7.
Yes, crazy.
We do this every Monday night. Pretty much every single Monday night. This is 7 seasons we've been doing this. So if you have an opportunity, hit YouTube Live or YouTube and go check out some of the older shows. We got all kinds of different drawings. We do movie stuff, hot rod stuff, all kinds of different things.
And as always, like and subscribe over there. We are trying to grow that viewer presence over there.
We're trying to get some presence.
YouTube presence over there. So hit like and comment and subscribe.
Okay, I'm gonna go
share and all that.
I'm gonna start trying to figure out how to get through all these cables that we have now.
All right, and I'm gonna try and do our split screen here. So I've got.
And I'm gonna go and start drawing.
Yeah. So you did this pre-draw tonight.
Yep, pre-draw.
And this is what year are we thinking?
Probably 29.
Okay. One of your faves.
I do like 29.
If you've been following us these last couple months at least, Johnny has a bit of a budget right now for a new project, and this is something that we're looking at. So we've already gone to visit one. We're hoping to maybe get some more insight when we go to Autorama on Wednesday.
That one was a 30, so
similar era.
Yeah, pretty cool. Kind of in the shape that we're looking for and stuff. So it's a possibility, definitely a possibility. But we're keeping our options open because we are heading to the Mega.
Yes.
Detroit.
The Motor City on Wednesday. We will be attending the Autorama show. We're going to be in the basement.
In the busy base.
Right near, I believe, where the awards are stored. They're stored. They were stored on that table over there.
That's up front.
That's where they were presented. They were stored so people could go look at them and stuff before, I thought.
No, that was a gentleman who made those.
Oh, by the front door?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Shaggy's stuff was over there.
No.
So our good friend Shaggy LeBlanc.
I don't think so. I could be wrong.
Was working on awards. He puts together the awards. Him and our buddy Gibb up there, Dennis Gibb, is doing some of the pinstriping on that stuff. So
Yeah.
We will be able to see all of those in person this year. I'm excited to see what they've come up with for the awards this year. So they handle that part of it. We're going to be in a booth as far as we know, unless anything has changed, but I'm pretty sure we're still the same setup as we were last year. We had Shaggy along with us and all of his cool welded creations. The guy is phenomenal with his design on these things. They're so cool. And then we have little Daddy Roth is setting up his stuff,
the legend,
in our booth as well. So we get to hang out with him.
We're setting up near his booth. He's not setting up in our booth.
Yeah, we're totally invading their space. We're so thankful.
There is no our booth.
So super excited to see everybody. We will be there in just a couple days. Let me tell you who's on the broadcast tonight and watching, because this is going to be a fun discussion, but I want to welcome everybody.
Lower to not lower.
So we've got Diamonds. Hey, Moose Man Diecast.
What's up?
We've got Mr. Dana Baldwin.
What's going on?
We have Dan Evans interacting, he says. Our buddy Dan.
Dan, I've been getting a friend request from you on Facebook. I don't know if that's you, so I don't know if you've been hacked or when you went over to China.
Maybe
if something happened. So
I lost your computer screen. I have
the one I'm drawing on.
I have the overhead, but I don't have your screen. Okay. It's fine. Just keep going. We've got Cameron McNulty, our daughter from Wyoming.
Me too.
Let's see. Oh, it looks like Moose Man had invited Diamonds over. This may be his first time checking out the broadcast.
We are excited that you're here. Welcome to the Sketchy Live
broadcast. We've got Lizzie Daughtry joining us from right over here in Dade City, Florida, our neighbors.
Yes.
Hello, Johnny and Eddie B. And of course, she's posting her YouTube channel, Miss Butterfree 34. She's got some really cool resin jewelry and trinkets and fun things to purchase over there. Go check it out. We've got Frank Pupello joining us, our buddy here local as well. Hurry, it's time for Sketchy Live. Don't miss a minute. I love it. He always has the best promos.
Yeah. And he promos us on his RC cars too.
Yes.
So we are so grateful for that.
And I know there's got to be a show coming up, and I'm sure he can tell us, but
every Saturday they race.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But I mean the show. That's something different.
That's model cars.
Those
are
models.
RC cars.
Okay, I'd love to go. I think it would be really neat to see. So definitely something we're interested in. We just got to find a free weekend. You know how we are. Matt Williams joining us. Hello from Idaho, where it sprinkled rain with a little snow and a mild earthquake.
Oh, nice.
In Idaho?
Welcome.
They have earthquakes?
You don't think the earth moves anywhere else?
The earth moves under my feet.
Yeah. That's why they wrote that song.
It is. Diamond said, "Drop or don't drop." I'm excited. Yeah, we've got a little bit. So here's the cool part about
the topic.
Here's the cool part about this discussion. I know literally nothing about this subject, and Johnny's been around a while. He grew up with this stuff, so I mean, I've seen it, but I was not immersed in it. Johnny participated in this era back in school, so we're going to talk about that in a second.
Well, listen, not this era, because they've been lowering cars.
They're still doing it
for quite some time, and I just lost my power. So hold on. Oh, some ASMR from Itty B drinking.
Am I drinking
with her microphone?
Possibly burping later. We'll see.
Okay, I'm back on power.
Okay. Howard Pierpont is joining us, 74. And he said, moonlit in Mineola, Texas. Love it.
Moonlit in Mineola.
George is joining us. George, is it Maychart? Maycart.
You said that once time.
I know,
the
and
right
I
way,
forgot.
And he was like, "Oh, you're the only person."
I know it might be Maychart.
Now you've screwed it up.
I don't know. Sorry, George. Let me know. Hi, kids from Illinois. It was a beautiful day. It reached 70 degrees. We had a little warm weather here today as well.
Blessings.
George the Glass Man. We've got Jack Sharp the Third. I love it. That's such a cool name.
Yeah.
Airbags, 78 Lincoln Town Car.
Okay.
So, and that's part of the lower community, the airbags.
So there we go. So that'll be another topic of discussion. How do we get low? Do we
get low?
Do we do static drop? Do we do the old school hydros? We'll talk about some of the lowering technical techniques my dad told me about in his day.
Okay.
Which is funny. And I've heard this also in the hot rod community as well, that guys would do this particular type. But go ahead.
We've got Moose Man saying hi. 40 in Indiana.
40 degrees in Indiana.
Chilly. We've got Joe Lombardo joining us. Hello from Jersey.
Chilean
Welcome.
Seabass.
Mike Kimber from Michigan. Slammed in the weeds is the way to go.
That's right.
Mike, we're hoping to see you at Autorama. Head on out.
Come on, get over there.
We've got Roth Custom Cars joining us on the broadcast.
Roth Custom Cars.
See you soon.
Yes.
Mr. Dana Baldwin, 67 and overcast in Arizona.
I'm wondering if old Mike Hicks is over there with him as well.
I'm sure they're prepping. I am sure they're prepping.
Yaks!
Well, I don't know. Did they even go home after the Starboard show? Because
they've still been hanging in Tulsa.
Maybe. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some stories we will hear about.
Can't wait.
Diamond said Detroit, Henry, Ford City. Yes. Right. And we have not made it to the museum yet. We've been up there twice now. This will be our third visit up to the area.
That's what I like to call a lot of boo.
We'll see. Maybe we can make it this time. We don't know.
I hope so.
Paul Marziani is joining us from right here in Bradenton, Florida. Welcome, sir. We've got Tanya Fightmaster joining us. See you Wednesday. Yes, ma'am.
Good to hear from you. Good to hear from you.
Dennis Goff, Dirty from Wisconsin.
What's up?
Moose Man said 53 right now here in Indiana.
Nice.
Sarah Clay joining us tonight. Can't wait to see you both. We're looking forward to seeing you guys too.
Oh my God. So we're hearing the names of our family.
I know. I love it.
I'm getting excited now.
I love it.
Not that I wasn't excited, but now I'm really like, oh my God, it's so close.
Oh, so Little Daddy will be there. I'm holding down the headquarters office in Arizona. So who is this? That is, I thought this was Little Daddy from Roth Custom Cars. Maybe that's Hicks.
Listen, or it could be just about any of the cool cats over there at Roth Custom Cars.
Maybe. Who's monitoring the page tonight? Charlie, is that you?
Gee.
We've got Dan Taylor joining us. See you there, Dan the Metal Man.
What up, Dan?
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
James Clay, waving. We will see you, sir. He's getting that car ready. He just came off this guy hunts like 24/7. I don't know how he finds the time, but he is totally into hunting, and he's posted the videos, and I love his dog. Bring the dog to Autorama.
He's a hunter.
He's a hunter.
And a gatherer.
But they have so much fun as a family, cute little family unit, and cool car. Can't wait to see it again.
Yes.
Diane Kinnery joining us. Hi, guys. We had our first 70-degree day today, too, here in Illinois. Storms headed our way for tomorrow. Oh, sorry to hear.
Get those hatches battened down.
Dan Evans said he was hacked. It was not him. So do not accept the request.
I did not accept
I repeat, do not accept the request.
Roger that.
Wiley Vincent joining us. Hello from San Jose.
What's up, Wiley?
Welcome.
Yes.
We have Diamond said, haha, Earth sits still with baked potato in Idaho.
Okay. I see what you
truck
did.
Goes up, cars go down.
See what you did there.
Oh, Sarah Clay said, Idiot, I can't wait to have drinks with you. Where are you staying?
Funsies.
Where are you staying? We will discuss. Yes, we'll be in the area. We're going to be in Taylor. We've got Scott Ferguson joining us. Sick Dodge. Did you see that paint job?
Of course.
I thought he was just going to give us snippets, but he did a walk around and posted that today.
I thought it was quite gutsy to be driving that thing on the road with a fresh paint job. You know, get your first dings in, I guess, before the show.
He's a risk taker.
He is a risk taker.
He is. Can't wait to see you and Nicole.
You know what's really cool is knowing that guy. He's pretty famous.
He is pretty famous. He's pretty well known in his community.
He is pretty well known. I don't know. Do you know Scott Ferguson?
Yeah, I've heard of him. He is famous. It's Mac Hart. Mac Hart. Remember that. So next time when I'm stumbling.
Well, you are a stumbling block.
And I knew you were the glass man. Bob Brandel joining us. Hello. Funny, I'm working on seat upholstery for a Model A.
Nice.
Bob is the gentleman who helped out with the truck bed
for Kona. Yes.
For Kona.
And been just a super cool buddy now. It's been great to get to know somebody nearby, and
brought you over that little
brought a cool Christmas gift. I feel very honored that, it wasn't just this random purchase and someone offering up a really amazing deal on a piece of stuff that I was able to buy from him, and wow, now we're talking, we hang out, and he's a cool dude.
Bob, it is still displayed. This is not just a Christmas ornament, throw it in a box until next year. It's going to be on display.
It's on display
all year round.
Although I'll probably open it up and play with it soon.
We're thankful. Diamond said cutting coils works. but it's best to take a little off each time till it feels and looks right. We've got Tony.
I can't wait to talk about that too. Yeah.
Tony Morjan. Hello, and always static drop, always aesthetic girl.
I like it.
We've got Ed Lucchese. Hey, from Newport Richie. What's up? Right in our backyard.
Get out of our backyard. I thought Coop was barking at something.
Right. We've got Wendy Nash joining us.
There she is.
Wendy and Eddie Nash. Eddie had a was it a Rambler?
It was a Nash.
Oh, a Nash. But I thought he called it a Rambler.
It might have been the Rambler model, but I can't remember. But I want to say, I think he said that I think George Barris had a hand in
something.
Or Winfield or one of those guys had a hand in doing some work on that.
It was a cool car. That was one of like the first drawings you did for somebody.
Yeah.
That wanted it.
Like,
so and they were excited about it.
Yeah,
and they liked it.
That's true. They didn't ask for
and they've been friends ever since.
One of the first and rare customers that was like, hey, just however you draw it, we're so happy with how it came out.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, can you it has stitching in the back seats at the lower corners.
If you could get that when the light hits it just right.
Could you go ahead and add that in there?
It was a drawing. A Rumbler American, Wendy said.
Okay. Rambler American?
Yep.
You said Rumbler.
I said Rambler.
You just said Rumbler.
Roth Custom Car. So it is Charlie behind the keyboard. Charlie, we are going to miss you. I was looking forward to seeing you. We had such a fun time last time. Well, that's okay. That's okay.
We're going to have to come that way.
Yeah, we'll have to come out to see you. Tony is joining us all the way from California.
Nice.
Welcome. So George said, I'll have to dial you guys in with a custom glass shifter knob for the new hot rod. Did you see the one I made for Ian and Jamie? Did you see it?
I believe we did see that one I saw it on their YouTube channel. Yes, that was really cool.
Scott Ferguson said the Dodge just broke down on me a few minutes ago. Fuel pump went out in the middle of the road. I changed it out at the gas station parking lot and made it home in time to watch y'all.
Oh, nice.
It drew one heck of a crowd while I was stranded. Oh, I'm sure. I bet
they were like, can you just go ahead and leave this here for a little bit?
Joe Lombardo said, hey guys, TROG in Wildwood, October 4th, 5th, and 6th, if y'all can make it. TROG was the
Trog.
No, it was the
oh, it's not? TROG?
No, it was something about gentlemen or
the race of gentlemen.
Yes, I knew it. I couldn't remember.
Didn't I just say the race of gentlemen?
Did you?
You're like, no.
You said Trog.
Yeah, that's what it's. TROG. Trog.
I know, but I didn't know what it stood for then. So
I was just telling you.
Anyways. And then Mr. Dana Baldwin said, my brother is a big Rambler guy. He's had 3 and he's in Wisconsin near where they were made.
Oh, right on.
Interesting. Okay. So that is getting us caught up. Oh, Eddie Nash is just joining us. Welcome, Ed. Love you guys.
What's up?
So let us focus in on what you're doing here.
We are already inked in.
We are inked in. We've lost, we do have the overhead, so you're going to see it there. But
I need to hit save.
Yeah. Hit save and pan out. This program has been a little temperamental, so we're gonna do our best to get through this. But
I can't pan out.
Well, I'm saying so that they can see full screen. So that's where we're at right now. Johnny did this line drawing in a couple hours prior to the broadcast here, so we will get that back up and running for you. So let's get into some of this talk. So what started this? I think most recently we were driving somewhere and we saw a little pickup truck with a bed cover. Like it almost looked like there was no bed. It was just a solid, didn't even look like it was a cover. It just looked like a solid piece, but it was lowered down. And you're like, look at that. That reminded you of back in the day where you come from in California, the people that you were hanging around with. And I guess that age group in that area, they were doing these lowered trucks. And you said that was one of the first projects that you did for yours.
Yeah, mini trucks, man. That was where I cut my teeth for sure, was on the mini truck scene.
Now, did you actually do anything to lower yours? Or maybe that's where the story comes from, that you said your dad was giving you some tips.
Let me know if you got that back now.
Let's see. Yup. Okay. We're back. There it is.
So yeah, I mean, that's where I'd seen, we went to car shows and stuff. And of course, growing up in California, especially in Santa Maria, California, there was a lot of the lowriders that were, all those guys were mostly hydraulics. some static lowering. But yeah, once I the mini trucking scene hit back in the 80s, I was like, yeah, I gotta get my my license and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I want to get into that. And my dad had an old 78 Toyota pickup truck. Not the year. What's funny is I've seen them now being used with the new Japanese motor craze going on. But back then it was not a desirable truck. Everybody was going for the new Toyotas, like 85s, Toyota pickups, the SR5. Then there was the Nissan Hardbody had just come out, the Mazda B2000, which that was like the popular because you could get the crew cab in those. And the 78 Toyota pickup truck was not the most desirable truck to be a mini truck.
Right.
But my dad had one, and he went to Greenland for a year. And he said, while he was gone, he's like, you could have that truck. Do with it what you will. And we had driven that vehicle with my family when I was in junior high. We moved to Vermont or New Hampshire, and we drove from California to New Hampshire in that truck in the snow, lived there for a year, came back. So it had rust everywhere. Our neighbor next door, they would constantly leave their sprinklers on. So the whole passenger side doors were rusted out really bad. So I'm like, oh, sweet, I get this truck. Awesome. So first thing I did to it was like, okay, I got to lower it. So how do you lower it? I didn't know how to do it, but there was a place nearby. In fact, I drove to Lompoc, which was like almost 30, 40 minutes away, drove the truck to Lompoc to a guy there who knew that basically cut the coils. I didn't know how to do that. So he cut the front coils, took a bunch out of it, and it just slammed it super bad. It was amazing.
Coils are shocks, like?
No, so the suspension, just like our Jeeps, have big giant coils that are inside the suspension, the A-arms, and that's where it sits on and rides on. And there are still shock absorbers that keep it from just bouncing around, very violently. So, but in order to lower a car statically with coils, or even if you have leaf springs, but most cars, like even Raquel has coils, what you do is you pull the coil out and you cut them, an inch or one coil, two coils, and that'll drop anywhere from 2 inches to 3 inches.
Really?
But I had mine dropped like, it was pretty low to where there's rubber stoppers when the A-arms come together, and they were already on the rubbers.
Oh, geez.
And then I went and cut those even shorter too. And then so my truck would kind of ride with the rake on it till I got it home. Well, this, like in the month that I got it lowered and started doing stuff too, like, I went to the automotive store and bought like fake pinstripe stuff and was like, because it was white and it was rusty, but I'm like, oh, I got to put some stripes on it, and let me tint the visor piece and stuff. I got that big giant, still one of my most favorite rear view mirrors was that big. Does everybody remember the big giant rear view mirrors that were super long and
that
thin?
Went, yes, all the way panels across.
Oh, they were the best. Love those things because you could see everything. Oh man, I love them. And so I did that and thought I was cool, but my truck rode. Meanwhile, all my friends I went to high school with, one of my buddies, Dino Cosmo, had this sick Datsun, like 60s Datsun or early Datsun pickup truck. It was all custom. I think he had suicide doors on it. It was painted hot pink. Oh, so badass. So he had this sick mini truck. My friend Kim Taylor he had a Toyota, and his was amazing paint job. Like, their folks did. Their folks did very well.
They might have had a little bit of money.
And my folks had barely a pot to piss in, but my dad gave me that truck, so I did the best I could with my paper route money and my Santa Claus money, and my Easter Bunny money. So I thought it was cool. Well, anyways, the next month I do this. Some kid moves in down the street who has a lowered truck, and I proceed to pick his brain. Like, how'd you lower it so low in the back? And he told me, oh, just take all the leaf springs apart and just go to one mono leaf spring in the back. So I did that, and my truck was super low. And then I saved up money.
So no more rake.
No, it was it looked good.
Yeah.
So then I saved some money and I went and had it painted and had some body work done and had it painted metallic blue. And then I put a sunroof in it, got all the windows tinted, got some centerline wheels, low pro tires. I mean, it was.
And where'd you go?
I cruised.
So what was the allure? Was it just because everybody else was doing it?
No, they just look so much better.
So really the lowering, I mean, there's no benefit to doing it other than the fact.
Well, no, well, there is. So, lowering a car, if you really look, you go back and you look at, for racing, the lower the car gets to the ground, the lower the center of gravity. So it's going to handle better. So, race cars were really, really low to the ground. Mm-hmm. And of course, as the guys come back and they start lowering the hot rods, a lot of them kept them the same regular height and would run those 16-inch wheels and they'd sit pretty high. But as they started putting more performance engines in them and started bringing the center of gravity down, taking into account all that they had learned in the military about, gravity and different things like that, being smart engineer type guys, they could figure out that the cars would handle way better lowered. Mm-hmm. And then it was just a matter of figuring out how to lower them the correct way. And that's when you started seeing axle drops on some of the, 30s cars and 40s cars to get them low. My dad told me stories of lowering the rear end of the car. They would put sandbags in the trunk.
Oh, geez.
Because they would cut the coils in the front.
Yeah.
Unless it was a solid axle. And then they couldn't afford airbags or they didn't have airbags then, but they couldn't afford hydraulics at the time. And, there wasn't putting lowering blocks in or taking leaf springs out. They were doing it the cheap way. They would just throw bags of sand or concrete blocks or something in the back of the car. Some guys, he told me, were sticking them in the engine compartment to get the front end down even lower to get it to look good. So it was cruising down the street really low. They look great. How about you guys out there? What is your opinion? Lower or raised? I think lower. Everything lowered looks better. Lower, the better.
Let me get you caught up on some comments here. So, Tat to Tank, hey, from West Virginia, love your work. Thanks for joining the broadcast. And we are live on Facebook and on YouTube, so you can check us out on either of those forums.
We still have the drawing, by the way.
We do. Let me get back to that.
Just
so
sure
while I read the comments, Cam said we were going to the fair when you guys saw that, and that's possible.
That's right.
We did ride out to the fair.
Yes, that's right.
We've got Ronnie Ogas joining us all the way from sunny San Jose, California.
There he is.
Just got home and have a ton of paperwork to do. So sad to say I can't watch for that long. Love you guys.
Hey, back at you, man.
We are thankful that you are here, Ronnie.
We are thankful.
Have a great night. Cam said we were going to the fair. Yep. We saw a blue pickup that was a low rider.
Yes.
That's right.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yep.
We've got the McCoys joining us. What's up, guys? Lisa and I are here tonight.
Nice.
Welcome.
Hopefully you're feeling better and all that's passed.
Yes, for sure. And then Ronnie said, hello, Jamie Russell. So she must be on. I didn't see her pop
Jamie,
on.
what's going on?
Possibly. So if you're out there, tell Ian hello.
Yes. Tell him. Preach it from this car.
Tony said, mini trucker since 1972, and I still lower vehicles every day.
It just looks so much better, I think.
Ed Nash said West Coast mirrors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Tony said they were called Wink mirrors.
Yes. Winks right there.
Joe Lombardo said my son and I are going to lower my 99 Silverado, but using a C-notch lowering kit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So was it risky to cut the coils?
Not risky.
It didn't change. I mean, maybe just from like
it wouldn't, I mean, again, probably in the early days, it was a little, to find shorter shocks, like Raquel has no, we don't have shocks. We've never had.
Yeah, that one's it's a rough ride.
We haven't had shocks in the front since I cut the coils because I just never got around to buying shorter shocks.
But I mean, it could affect, like if you're on a bumpy road or something, maybe do some damage.
Yeah. But and a lot of those cruising guys, they weren't racing, so they weren't going fast or trying to coordinate. It was about the appearance,
just the way it looked.
So those early guys were just trying to get the cars, especially those customs. You look at some of those, early, like the early Barris cars. They were doing everything they could in fabrication to try to make the car appear lower. But once you started getting the car low to the ground, I mean, compared to today, where guys are laying frame on just about every build now, lowering stuff is the commonplace. In fact, if your car nowadays isn't on bags or hydraulics,
is it really even is it a show car?
Is yours low? Because it's not that low. Sometimes we have lower envy. At least I do sometimes. I'm like, man, I wish I could get a little bit lower.
Every time. Diamond said, yes, the big mirrors with all the angles, Toyota and Datsun respect. Yeah, Datsun was a big one. Charlie said, every car I owned in the late 70s and 80s, I put the long rearview mirror in it.
Those were the greatest. I love those mirrors.
Tat to Tank wants to know any pictures of your truck. We'll have to find some. We'll have to dig some up and he can post them. The lowered stance makes it more aggressive, Diamond said.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I've noticed that, like the mini truck thing, I get it. But, my experience in mini trucks was like just watching stuff on TV, like Cheech and Chong stuff. And
when did they have a mini truck on Cheech
They weren't driving a mini truck, but just the whole era of it. I don't remember watching Cheech and Chong.
So then why would you comment that you remember Cheech and Chong?
Because it reminds me of that era. Where did I see it? Like maybe that 70s show, or I watched something. There was some kind of show where they had, I don't know if they were mini trucks though.
So mini trucks was 80s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe that wasn't it. I'm from Jersey. I don't remember anybody having mini trucks.
I'll guarantee you that there were guys at your high school that were driving mini trucks. You just didn't know some because you were too busy on the CB in your weird
in my Nova
thing you were doing.
No, I don't remember mini trucks by me. My experience in mini trucks was probably movies.
It was a big California thing,
I think
for
it
sure.
Was.
But and again, I'm super stoked that it's coming back. I've seen some kids in our area that are doing it, and I think it's awesome. It makes me go, dang, maybe I need to find myself an old, but they're hard to find. Like I've actually looked on Craigslist and stuff, and it's hard to find some of those 80s Toyotas or Nissans. In fact, that aren't already jacked up. And we're talking, it got so crazy in the mini trucking days. And again, I don't know if you've ever seen it where they were doing bed dancing stuff. I was telling you that truck we saw, it was completely solid. I'm like, that thing has a bed that I bet has hydraulics on it, which is it raises and lowers. But also there was a whole competition where guys would have the bed come up and spin around and split in half and come back.
Like Transformers.
Kind of like
more
that.
than meets the eye.
Sure. It was really cool.
Chris Fordham said, owned both low and high. I like low as a preference.
Yeah, and again, listen, I'm coming from California too. Going to the sand dunes and off-roading and different things were available, and big lifted trucks. I'm a big fan as well if they're done right. I'm a huge fan of it. But everybody's got their preference, and I don't want to hate on any specific style, but I like the old school lifted truck where it's a lot of tire and it's a little bit of rim. As far as the size of the rim itself, the diameter of the rim, love a deep dish rim with a big giant mud tire on it on a big lifted truck. It's freaking amazing. That looks great. But yeah, but going back to, the custom stuff. So when you saw your first lowered cars, was it when you went to car shows with me? That's really when you kind of got.
When I paid attention to it, we went to a big show out in Tampa. Remember the time I almost fainted?
Yeah, Street Rod Nationals.
Yeah. And that was really my first experience seeing everything. And now I may have seen stuff pass me on the street or something, but my dad never took us to car shows. We didn't go to car shows as kids. It wasn't a big thing for him. And nobody would have explained to me what I was looking at. Because I remember saying to you, how did they get that thing here? Like it is literally sitting on the ground. I see the wheels, but it doesn't look like it would move. I didn't know anything about
totally laying frame on most of those that you were seeing. Because we also went to, I think we even stopped in at the I took you to one of the lowrider shows that was at Tampa as well. And that was when all of them were like on the ground.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was you.
No.
I love that.
Somebody else.
Again, horrible memory when it comes to stuff always too. And then
pretty sure
always
it was somebody else.
Then always plays that. No, it wasn't me. Oh, that's funny. I didn't go to car shows before you.
Wasn't me. You did go to car shows.
No, I didn't.
By yourself. Maybe you met somebody there.
I didn't.
In any case, wasn't me.
Or you're just got a bad memory.
It wasn't me.
Or you're just a horrible memory.
Paul Marziani said lower. Diamond said axle drops and axle flips. Tat to Tank said lower.
For sure.
Thaddeus is joining us. Phatius.
Thaddeus.
Low. Only way to go.
For sure.
Diamond said lower the better. In my opinion, if it's got a 4x4, then maybe not drop it. And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. With sure. We've got a sick Jeep out there that you did not lower. But why would you lower a Jeep? So you went higher with the Jeep.
People have lowered them, and I don't get it.
George said, my dad built race cars after World War II. He drops the engine down in the chassis for a better center of gravity.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Diamond said, depends if you went to short, it made maybe a little more bumpy. Okay. So as far as the performance of the vehicle, if you go lower and...
Yeah. So so that's where when you started having companies that were building actual lowering kits and lowering spindles and lowering different things, so you could actually lower that. And that's currently where we're at now is there are tons of manufacturers that make lowering suspension products to get the car really low and still perform and drive really good. A lot of these guys that are driving on airbags, they love the way it rides because it's a very cushy ride because it's on airbags. So that's the advantage of airbags. The disadvantage, unfortunately, of airbags is when you lose a bag, you better hope you have
a fire extinguisher,
some bump stops that'll keep the car from dropping to the complete ground. So that's a big thing where you can kind of cut corners on cost, is not getting all the safety precaution stuff to make sure you don't drop. But there's a lot of cool manufacturers of building stuff for that too. A lot of really neat, innovative stuff. Guys that out of their garage that have come up with some pretty cool stuff, and now are selling. That's where a lot of the C-notching things came from, was a way to get the car as low as possible and basically bring the axle up through the frame by putting a notch in the frame itself and fabricating a higher point to where the axle can come up inside of it, and that allows you to drop the body all the way to the ground.
That's crazy.
It's freaking amazing. In fact, Ian was just doing that on one of his latest episodes that he's building a Zephyr that they found out there in the desert, and he just recently put in a Scotty Chops C-notch, and it's great. Great product, and it was really cool the way they do it. Gambino Customs, I think, makes a really cool C-notch for like 50s Chevys. So go check those guys out. Not that we're sponsored by any of those guys, but they make great products, and they seem like super great guys.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
I never heard of a C-notch, but that's an interesting.
So the idea of it, do you understand what it is?
Well, it sounds to me like everything's dropping. You've got to make sure that there's room for.
So I'll draw. So this is the frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the axle itself. So let's say the wheel's here, around this point, right? So as low as you can get and then you got the arch of the body, let's say, right? So as low as the car will go is that low. But a C-notch actually takes where you cut this part of the frame out, this part of the frame out, and then build the frame upwards like that. And then that allows this to now go up into here, which brings the bottom of the wheel to here.
Right.
So now you've completely dropped the car down below the axles, or the axle is now raising up high, 5-6 inches higher than it ever could.
So you have to do that on each wheel?
You would do that on each frame rail. So there's only 2 frame rails generally.
Oh, okay.
So you would notch those frame rails. And again, the cool thing is that with these kits that guys have made, is the strength and integrity of that frame still continues. In fact, it probably is stronger now because it's boxed in that section that you've made, and the axle is allowed to now travel up through the frame.
That's interesting.
Which allows you to get the car much, much lower.
The things people do for their cars, right?
Well, it's just think of the first person. I don't know who exactly was the first person to think about doing that, is basically taking the frame itself. I mean, a lot of guys, what they were doing is they were Z-ing the frame, which is you'd have the frame rails let me go here. You'd have the frame rails that did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what a lot of guys were doing is they would just cut this part off, and then they would weld a new piece of frame to go that way, so the axle would be allowed to travel that way. So they Z'd it, so there's a Z here, right?
Yeah, it's a stretch backwards.
The only problem with the Zing of it is now you're taking the whole back end of the frame pieces now up into the trunk, and that may be causing, you know, some space issues and different things, especially if you're putting air ride or something in that, or it adds a little challenges as far as like triangulating, you know, putting a 4-link in there. You've got some spots where it might bind up, where with the C-notch, you almost utilize a lot of the factory points and get that same travel without doing a lot of modification to the frame, other than you've put a big giant C in it.
Right.
And they'll do that with the front end too, as they'll Z the fronts to get. That's what a lot of guys that build, you know, like for instance, this little yellow car out here, a way to get that body channeled over the frame is basically the reverse of that. So imagine this is where the engine sits is here, you know, and the wheels here. Does that allow you to get the front of the car down lower, even though the frame is up higher?
Right.
There's just different ways of cheating the system to get the car lower. So yeah, pretty neat.
Depends on how much money you have, and
and that has a lot to do with it too, or the way you're doing it. So, like for instance, like this truck we're looking at here, you know, there's multiple ways a guy could lower this thing. A lot of these vehicles, factory had a solid axle in the front, so the early days and the solid axle, the axle only kind of bent kind of at an angle like this, or it would be straight across with the wheels on each side, right? And then the spring would sit on top of that. Right. So in order to get it lower, what guys would do is they would heat the edges of the axle and bend them
it more. Wow.
So they almost would get 3 to 4 inches of you know, raising up the spindles that hold the wheels out, and that would drop the car down. And so you had guys in their backyards with big torches, and they were doing that. And then there were companies that came along and started making axles and making them available, and were selling them at speed shops and selling them at shows. And then now you had professionally done, and that's how they are done today, is they're professionally made drop axles. Well, cars like this too, a lot of guys, if they're building a Model A, might go to a more modern chassis, like on a Mustang or something like that, that are utilizing A-arms. So there's an upper and a lower that looks like an A with a spring in it. So how would you lower those? Well, you would get springs that are already short.
Right.
And that would allow you to lower the car. So there's lots of different ways to lower a vehicle nowadays, as compared to
back in the day, when they had to figure it out.
Doing it. But you go back to some of those guys back in the 50s, man, those were the engine. This is where it all. Those guys were smart, super, you know,
problem solvers. They just had to figure it out.
Again, how smart is it? They're like, I'll just throw 70, 80 pounds of cinder blocks in the back trunk, and we'll get it down low for tonight.
Gas mileage was probably horrible. Charlie Roth said, I just got a Ram 1500 with a 5.7 Hemi. Nice. The best way to lower is replace the front spindles and rotate the rear end and springs. It saves the ride.
Yes. Yeah. There's lots of different ways to lower. But again, so back to the original question, but as we're talking to folks, though, lower or not. And it seems the collective is unanimous. Lower is the way to go. It just looks so much better. I mean, imagine back if you'd have seen even your Equinox back in the day. You ever seen one of those lowered?
No.
Changes the whole look of that thing.
You've seen it lowered?
Oh, yeah.
On the road?
Yes.
Really?
They look sick.
Red line?
Well, it was a red line, but someone had gone through and put a suspension in there or made one. I don't know if Chevy makes one for the Equinox. I bet they probably do, a lowering kit for it, and it looked amazing.
Well, look at those Magnums, a station wagon.
Sure, that already factory kind of looks like they're lowered, and that's a lot of what the manufacturers are doing now in design. Is you'll notice a lot of the newer modern cars with big 20-inch wheels and stuff. If you look at the wheel arches, they're much, much larger now. And that's so they can get a larger wheel up in the wheel wells to
make it look,
to fill them up and make them look low. But you look at back of those 70s cars where there was like 7 inches between the top of the fender to the wheel. You're going, holy cow. It looks like an off-road car.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you take you take the Brady wagon and take that thing and put it on the ground. Holy Toledo. It looks amazing. Everything looks better lowered.
The Brady wagon.
The family truckster, man.
That's so
Clark
funny.
Griswold knew.
Right?
Put that thing on the ground.
Diamond said frame tickles the gravel. I get so concerned. Like when we were up there watching Scott Ferguson has that 50 Dodge and his is low. His is super low.
Yep.
Watching him try to get that on the trailer, I was cringing because I'm like, oh my God, your back end is going to scrape. Your back end is going to scrape.
So that's the unfortunate side of a static drop, which is when you're cutting the springs and you're cutting you're maneuvering it to where there's no way to move it up any higher, right? So that's the only downside of static drop is even entering into parking lots or going over speed.
You got to be super careful.
You run the risk of, well, that's the fun part, is scraping the hell out of everything. But so the advantage of hydraulics or airbags is you can actually adjust the ride height and be riding, normal as you're cruising down 70, 80 miles an hour.
Dirty.
Or just out of the blue, hit the switches and drop it to the ground. And just it's fireworks show on the freeway at 70. That stuff is awesome.
Diane Kennery said, looking blurry here. Focus, please. Hopefully you can see a little bit better now. It's kind of gone in and out a bit. I apologize.
It's probably because of the multi-cameras.
Probably. Yeah. Tony said, no mini trucks for the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they were all over TV. They were all on MTV and on the videos. Okay, so that might have been where I've seen it. Maybe there was a video or something with them.
We like the cars that go boom. Yeah, in fact, there was a local club in my town that was in that video.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
I think Tina and Bunny were the rappers.
Okay, no clue.
Well, that's because you were too busy listening to Bruce Springsteen instead of other music.
Probably.
That's why you didn't. And you're younger.
I am by like 2 years.
Yeah, well, that's not my fault.
Joe Lombardo said, in Jersey we drive caddies usually.
Yeah. Okay. So take.
But those were lowered.
So they weren't. But you take Cadillacs, like 70s caddies, and you drop those things on the ground. Come on now. Come and get some.
Diamond said mini trucks were 80s to the early 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, they lasted for quite some time. I will say it really hung on, and then there was a little bit of a delay.
Tapering off.
And then we jumped right into, hate to use the terminology, but the Ricer era, which was the Civics and the Preludes and the Scions. But at the same time, what did those kids do too?
Lowered them.
Dropped them to the ground. Because lowered's better.
The McCoy said, got the Ranger mini truck 4x4 and the lifted Baja, but also have the lowered 50 Chevy and the Dune buggy with lowered drop spindles.
Yeah. Yes, he's got a Dune buggy.
He's got one of everything.
He's got a Dune buggy and it's lowered. Because lowered's better.
How funny. Joe Lombardo said Itty B was probably watching Chico and the Man. Yeah. I don't think I've ever even seen that.
It's so funny. So we may have to go and watch some good. Well, didn't you watch Corvette Summer with me?
No.
I thought you did.
No.
That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm talking about.
We watched Christine together. I think that was it.
This is what I'm talking about. Imagine the Blues Brothers machine lowered. Oh, I think I did a rendering of that. Yeah. And I lowered it.
You did.
Because everything I draw is lowered.
Matt Williams said, when I first bought my 67 Firebird, it had a rake with the big tires and air shocks in the back. So I'm more partial to a car that sits up in the back, but some cars do look cool lowered, but not too low.
Now, again, so we're not talking about specifically muscle cars, because I agree with you. It's all dependent upon what the style of the vehicle you're doing. So a classic muscle car, you got to have the rake. You got to have the big and littles. That just looks cooler.
So are you lowering then just the front? Or you don't have to at all because you're just
realistically,
doing
a lot of those
tires.
Guys wouldn't have to lower the front. They would just put bigger tires in the back, throw some ladder bars on there, and boom. You were talking about gassers.
Right.
Gassers are almost lifted like a 4-wheel drive. They were trying to get the front axle up higher so that the center of gravity, when they were launching from the pad, would push everything backwards the rear tires so they would grip harder. But as they saw, as they continued in the processes of those guys that are engineers and smart guys, the gasser didn't last long, and then it kind of was like the introduction of the funny car, because gassers were the big flaked cars with the big motors, and they just looked weird. And then next thing you know, we've got these really cool, funny car looking things where the axles in the front got a little lower and the tires started, the rear, instead of being so high in the rear, they started cutting the body and dropping the rear end of the car down. And then you get into the true, funny cars that were the fiberglass bodies, and they just naturally made the car where it was really low in the front and really big in the back. But if you look at the chassis itself, it's like inches from the ground,
right?
Just sucking to the ground as much as possible.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Diamond said 16 is the largest to go for any rim. Any larger, it's clown shoes.
Which type of vehicle are we talking?
He said 17 is hit or miss. What are you talking about here? Lizzie said, now you're talking monster trucks, big tires. Well, that's a whole other arena.
Yeah, that's a different thing there as well. Yeah.
Jamie Russell's joining us.
What's
she
up,
says,
Jamie?
Planet get low. For sure.
Right.
That seems to be the way everybody's thinking here. So
yeah, it just.
Dennis Goff said, I put air ride on my 52 Ford and lay it on the frame. It used to be lowered by cut coils and lowering blocks in the rear. I love lowered cars.
I just do too. Yeah.
Diamond said, airbag sucks if one pops and the price, but it's a great option. When we were at Frankenmuth this last time, that station wagon had an issue.
Yeah.
And I think a fire started.
It wasn't because of his airbag system. No.
I thought it was.
No.
I thought that's what somebody said, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize it could do that.
No, it was what happens when you're rushing to get a car done for a show.
Oh.
And you cut some corners on your wiring, and you didn't tape them very well, or you didn't heat shrink them, and so we had some wires kind of touching metal and it exposed. And
okay.
arc with some fuel nearby.
Yikes.
That'll happen. Or the stuff that was on, I think it was from the hood, might have caught too, but not good.
No. Bob Brandel said, we used to do that on some race cars, circle track racing. Some of the guys in New York would take those frames and stick them under trucks.
Yeah.
Crazy. We've got Hal Schaefer joining us. Yes, real deal. How about it? Carburetor Man has joined.
Up, man?
Welcome, sir. Scott said, golly, I don't know why anyone would lower a car at all. That would make the car useless. Ha, ha, ha.
Golly. Yeah, for sure.
Michael Williams said the original 30s Ford frames were designed for 60 horsepower max. As engines got more powerful, frames had to be reinforced for safety. See, and that would always be a concern of mine. And you said that you cut the coils on Markel. I don't remember you doing that.
Yeah, right out in the front yard.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
So
actually, it was out in front of your house.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always concerned about safety. And one of the things that you said to me when I first met you and you had that Ford truck body, and I'm like, why would you buy this? This is literally just, there's no wheels. It had nothing. It was just this frame and a little bit of a cab that was withering away. And you said, because it's solid, you don't want to mess with a frame that's been modified or cut.
Well, not necessarily that it hasn't been modified, but you definitely want to.
Well,
there's where
if you weren't the one doing
careful.
it, maybe.
Right? You got to be careful.
And I've always thought, if you're cutting something and rewelding it, it is not as strong as it was.
No, that's not true.
It's not.
No.
Okay.
No, in fact, you can make it stronger.
Well,
cutting and welding,
which you've shown me, because with the Kona build, that's exactly what happened in some areas when you were cutting stuff and reinforcing it.
Yep, you can add metal into, like, for instance, a big thing that guys do with these 30s cars is they'll take the factory frames if they're in good condition and straight, and squared up. They'll box the frame itself, which is, if you imagine the frame that it sits on now is almost in the shape of a C. Right. So they'll add another piece of steel and completely enclose that. So it's a big circle.
Right.
So it's a solid piece, and that makes it stronger. They'll put gussets in different things, which is adding extra metal in a triangular shape, or different ways to make even angles that are cut. They'll add another piece of steel here so that there's no way for that to flex down or break. And again, just being a good welder, you're constantly making stuff stronger. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily make it weak. A bad welder can make it very weak.
You're not a bad
or just
welder.
old stuff. Like for instance, I think it was Dave Shutton that was just showing they were transporting that uncertainty around, and because it's just so old and been sitting, just the vibration of it sitting in the trailer, moving from the frame is actually cracked now in some spots.
No.
Well, I mean, they're going to probably put a new frame and stuff on it anyways.
Are they still bringing it to the show?
As far as I know, I heard. I don't know him personally, but I would assume. But that's the thing, like when we were looking at some of the project stuff that I've had my eye on, some of the concerns I've had of some of it is, what's the condition of the frames that these are sitting on?
Because that's the bones. That's the bones.
Well,
of it.
And nothing says that it hasn't been hit or it's tweaked, or a lot of those early Ford, they're almost 100 or so years old, 100 years old.
Yeah, almost.
32. Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about, metal that's been in a box and was riveted 100 years ago, unless it's been really well taken care of, it's a good possibility that they could be off center or warped or anything. So anything is possible. You just got to be very careful and
safety first.
Safety. Yes.
Not in this car community. No.
On this podcast, safety first. But in generalities, sometimes you forget stuff. And as you were talking about with Raquel, the first time I pulled that whole suspension down, it took me like 5 hours to get those springs out the first time.
Oh.
And then I put them back in and went, shit, I didn't cut enough. So then I pulled it apart, and then that took 2 hours. And then I put it back in there and went, crap, I didn't cut enough. And then I took it apart, and it took me 30 minutes. And then I cut it again and put it back together and went, a little more. I took it apart, and it was like 15 minutes. And then put it back together, and it was like, okay, that looks really good. Thank God.
I'm gonna say there's no coil left
because I don't want to do this anymore. No, I was just I was listening to what guys were telling me. They're like, oh, cut a coil, basically a coil and a half first. That should get you 2 inches
because you don't want to overcut it.
So I did that, and it didn't do anything. It was like it barely moved the car, and I was like, well, crap! But it took so long to take apart. So then I was like, okay. Again, no air tools, not just all. And so I pulled it apart, and it didn't take as long because I knew exactly how it came apart and how to put it back together, and I wasn't as afraid. But I cut. It's
a learning process.
I cut another half a coil, thinking, okay, I don't want to go too much. What happens if I cut too much? And then it wasn't enough, and then I was like, the next one I got more brave, and I'm like, I'm cutting a whole coil out. And then it was close, but I was like, a little bit more would be even better.
Jeez. Bo Van Gogh's joining us. He said, my first truck was a mini trucked out full-size Chevy, bagged it and painted flames on it my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Loved lowered stuff ever since. I think for a lot of people, like we were talking about customization on like your bike being your first project thing.
Realistically.
And then you wind up getting like a beater car, and you're like, what can I do with this? Well,
everything's about making it your own.
Right? For sure. Bob Randall said gallons of moonshine would do the same thing. We know what he was hauling around. Corey Siebert's joining us. Hope you enjoyed time with your daughter. Oh, we had a great time with our daughter and our granddaughter.
Yes.
Calling me grandma.
Oh, she's adorable.
I loved it.
She's adorable.
Corey said, remember the days of high boy cars? It was hot in the 60s.
Yeah, that was a huge I mean, it's still popular, that style. And that's when a lot of highboys were, a lot of California guys were doing the highboy roadsters, and that's where they basically would take, and they wouldn't channel or put the body over the frame. They would set the body on top of the frame itself, so it would sit really high. And they wouldn't do any modifications to the body. But then a lot of the East Coast guys were like super channeling the car over the frame, and then doing crazy stuff to the frames to get them really up in there to where you're sitting like you would open the door and there'd be like a 5-inch lift up where there's a pad
for your step,
and you're like, your legs are sitting straight out, but the car, and again, that's what I go, who cares? The car looks sick.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of custom stuff that we do. that just it doesn't make sense. Look at our chop is not ridiculous. It's close, but we could go further. We could go more. But as you're sitting in there and went to our first red light, you're like, I can't see anything. I'm like, I know.
We need to get one of those little mirrors.
I know, but it was so funny to watch you like lean over and you were like looking
out the window
up underneath, and I'm like, this is the best.
So funny.
You didn't have to do that before.
We've got from YouTube, I am in Florida. Dropped spindles on a stock springs let you have lower ride height, but still longer suspension travel. Better ride.
Yes, for sure.
Charlie said it's all DIY bolt on parts now. All my friends drive a lowrider. Oh, is he singing the song? Oh, my friends. Tat to Tank said, what device are you drawing on, bro?
This is a
Microsoft
Surface Book.
Surface Book in the Sketchable app. Thank you for asking.
Yes.
Johnny is a Sketchable artisan. Uses the program. We've used the program for 7 years now.
Yeah, quite some time.
7th year. Yeah. Some upgrades along the way, and it's handling pretty well tonight.
Yep, it's doing okay.
I am in Florida as a 72-year-old. The first time I saw a lowered ride, it was an old man driving a station wagon who hauled scrap metal, and his springs were so collapsed. So when I see a lowered car, that's my first thought. Well, he was doing it right. He just didn't know he was doing it.
Trend setting back in the day. Didn't know.
It's Eddie Nash. I am in Florida as Eddie Nash. So he's over on YouTube and on and Facebook. Look
at him multitasking.
Diamond said mini trucks and JDM shared the spotlight in the 90s to 2009.
Yeah, JDM, that's the other thing. And it's still pretty popular. But what's crazy is I remember being a little kid and my grandpa had an early Datsun truck. This was, I forget what year, 62, 3, 4 maybe. It was the square style Datsuns. And I loved that thing. And he had the motor all hopped up in it and stuff. And it was fast. Now his wasn't lowered, but he maybe it was lowered. It wasn't super lowered, but I bet he had the suspension down a little bit. And he drove it like a race car everywhere we went. But that was my first. I was like, these are cool. It's a pickup truck, but it's really tiny. And then, when the mini trucking craze hit, I was like, all I wanted was, I wanted so bad to have one of those Mazda B2200s with the crew cab and the camper shell. Everybody was putting camper shells on them. And then the big craze in my town was, of course, the cool artwork on the back window for your club or whoever you were. And I just dreamed of like, God, how are they doing that? One, it wasn't stickers. And I'm thinking to myself, all these sign painter guys that, were doing stuff on the sides of vehicles that weren't doing probably as many of that stuff now had another avenue of where they could put their artwork on. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool. And again, there was just some amazing, crazy paint jobs, that really gave a nod to the true, essence of the lowriders and the Chicano culture and stuff and how that looked. And it kind of transformed over into, at least for my area, in the mini trucking era too. Like you would see like a young kid and his dad had like a whole bomb that was just flaked out and paneled and dropped to the ground with hydraulics. And then here's this kid riding around the sick ass, their dad probably owned a body shop or something, or they were taking shop and they were doing that. They learned how to do all that stuff. And, here's Johnny over here taking drama and screen production, video production and stuff.
And look at you now.
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah.
So how soon after you were driving this lowered little pickup truck did you get that Jeep?
I drove that Toyota forever for quite some time. Yeah.
Because the Jeep, you went high.
Well, yeah. And because I went with a friend of mine who had his dad had a CJ5, and we went out in the sand dunes once by me. And I was hooked. I was like, oh, man, this is fun. You can just go out here and just drive all over the place. He's like, yeah, man, it's great. I was like, I need a Jeep. So
can't do that in the mini truck.
Nah, so I kept trying to find a Jeep and finally found one. And the craze, it really happened to where I started working at a shop when I was doing car stereo installation. and my boss had a Suzuki Samurai that was all lifted, and they went to the sand. He went to the sand dunes, and then his assistant manager got a Suzuki Samurai lifted, and then they were going to the sand dunes, and so he was kind of my boss. And we would go play mini golf and golf together and stuff like that. And every weekend, those guys were heading to the sand dunes. And I was like, oh, that must be fun. And the cruising time was already kind of dwindling off. Nobody was cruising and the cops were shutting it down. So this was like the parties were now moving. And a lot of mini trucking guys started, the mini trucking dudes started buying Jeeps and off-road deals and sand rails and stuff and started heading to the sand dunes. And so the party went from the parking lot at the mall, which was the cruise fest. Now it's out at the freaking beach.
Can I just say, my upbringing was so lame. Compared to what you guys did.
You said it. I
had nothing. I had nothing. Joe Lombardo said there's this show you guys might have heard of called Full Custom Garage. I think the guy's name's Ian or something. Yeah,
he's a good dude for sure.
He lowers sheet all the time.
I think one of Ian's mottos is as lower is better.
Well, you heard Jamie.
Sure.
You heard Jamie say it. Dalton Prince said, hello. Sorry I'm late. Welcome to the broadcast.
No, you're good.
Tony said static is the only way to go because it's the only way you can align the car. It will always stay aligned.
Yeah. And that's
important.
Yeah. If you do it right. So that was the thing with Raquel is she, I didn't do that the right way, but it can't, right? It looks
used
good.
We wrote it.
It's lowered.
Dalton Prince said low is the way to go.
For sure.
David Iyer, with altitude comes attitude.
With higher, with altitude is great responsibility.
We've got Clyde Hensley on the broadcast.
What's up,
Clyde? Hey. Michael Sr., a lowered vehicle is cool, but when these kids take these Hondas and other foreign cars, they slam it to the ground and camber them out. So it's riding on just the inside edge of the tire. That's one of my pet peeves.
Okay. So again, there's room for us all, right? Here's what I will say, as much as that is annoying to us, the eras that we come from, I'm still stoked that guy, that kid, that girl, whatever, has grabbed a car and decided to do something to make it their own, which is really continuing the culture. It may not be,
your preference,
hot rod or custom, right? But listen, it's the gateway in. that kid eventually gets around the right people at a car show that doesn't look down at that cambered wheel offset and talk crap about it, but actually goes over to the kid and encourages him and says, hey man, I dig what you've done. Maybe not necessarily my flavor, but I love the fact that you're here. You're showing your car.
Get involved.
You're out. You're continuing the car culture. And that kid may show interest in what came before.
Right.
And that's how we continue the culture growing, is we're not shutting down all the ideas that sometimes we find lame. There's lots of things I've seen and it's not my flavor. To be honest, you go back to the street rod days, back to the early 90s of the street rod era. There's a lot of cars that are in garages and are on Craigslist now that are big, giant, Easter eggs.
Are you talking like Fast and Furious cars?
No, Beth.
Oh,
hot rods that were done back in the 90s. They called them street rods.
Oh.
And they're not done as a traditional hot rod. They're not done as a nod to the 50s customs and the culture back then. They're done to the new era, which is a lot of very, very bright paint jobs, a lot of billet aluminum and different stuff, which was the era of those cars. And there are people probably maybe that watch or that have those cars. And I have nothing against them. Not necessarily my flavor now. When I first got into it, I was like, oh my God, those cars are amazing. But I now have an appreciation. But again, the cool thing is the people that I've been around have encouraged me and have shown me the ways and the era of my the way I was looking at some things before. And that's all I'm saying is we've gone to shows where there's a variety of all kinds of different cars that show up. And I'm not going to be the guy that talks crap about a kid's, whoever that person is,
put
guy,
time
girl,
and effort
whatever,
and
they have a car,
passion into
they're
it.
here, they've done something to personalize it. it's a continuation of the automotive culture. Listen, the country itself is trying to shut that down in general. And if we are dividing ourselves by types and stuff, that's how we will start losing ground. So the more we continue to nurture those kids that are doing the weird offset thing and the 72-foot wing that doesn't make sense on a front wheel drive car, at least he's doing something, and he's not in his room playing video games, because that's the norm of today, where that kid is not doing that. He's doing something. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you. Joe Lombardo said safety third.
Safety. I agree, Joe.
Bob Frizz joining us. We will see you in a couple days. He said, hi, guys. See you soon. The party is at my house.
Oh, my God.
You
Bob,
heard it here, folks. If you're in the Detroit area, party at Bob's.
Shaboom's on us. Not literally, but we'll make some shabooms. Well, maybe on Eddie B. I could
oh, God.
I'm looking at him right now and wanting to look in. Anyway.
Anywho, Dalton Prince said, I like them solo. You can trim your fingernails on the pavement.
Yes.
Yep. As you're hanging your arm out the window, right?
Or just even on the ground. Yeah. I love it.
Model A Mafia. Slammed Model A is hard to beat.
It really is. So that's yeah.
Johnny agrees.
That's the dream. That's what I'm really hoping to find for myself, as an affordable. Because that's really what I'd really like to have.
That's the dream. David Evans said, woohoo, happy Monday. Welcome to the broadcast. We've got Jay Newby joining us.
I've kind of stopped drawing, and I apologize for that. The discussion is just, we're having so much fun with the discussion. I'm just going to go to that and
okay.
Focus in on the discussion.
Jay Newby, we will see you in a couple days as well.
We did draw something. So
William Rich, watching you fill the truck. The guy across the alley from my shop years ago had a 29 pickup that was root beer brown with black fenders and Jag rear and knockoffs that were orange. Your drawing reminds me. He was all about the drawing, and you just erased the drawing.
It's still there.
It's still there. We still got it. We've got Hicks joining us. Happy Sketchy Live. See you soon. Can't wait. Joe Lombardo, car guys and gals should run the country.
You know, I go back to what were you driving? It was a
77 Chevy Nova.
I would love I hold on.
I have no pictures of myself in it. It was a 4-door.
How did that happen?
It was my grandparents' car.
Chevy Nova. Yeah. Imagine this at 4-door.
Yeah.
Even worse.
I know.
Oh.
Let me see it.
Kaka.
Here she is.
That's Kaka.
It was all black with a
it was black. Okay.
Baby blue interior, vinyl interior.
Yeah.
My parents,
let me know.
My grandparents had bought that new, I'm guessing in 77. I got it in 88.
Lowered 77 Chevy Nova.
So it was only 11 years old, but that was my ride. It had a water pump. No, it overheated.
I'm sure it had a water pump.
I was going to say a water pump that leaked, but I think it was, what's the water heater in it called?
Water heater?
Not the water heater. I'm thinking houses.
What do you?
The radiator.
There you go.
Radiator had a leak in it. So every few miles I'd have to pull over and add more water or it would overheat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I'd be like,
what was your call? What was your handle?
The Nova.
Look at
this is the Nova. I'm out on 37. I need a gallon of water. Anybody come around? Come and
get some.
Anybody got some water? Little H2O for the Nova.
That's so funny. They look pretty good lowered.
Hit me up if you're at the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, I'm a large coffee.
Yeah,
I'm trying to work myself into.
I wasn't drinking coffee then. It was all.
Some coffee and some caffeine going.
Oh my
working
goodness.
Yourself up to get it. Someone give me a Dunkin' Donut.
David Evans said that's a great attitude. Find common ground. Yeah, and that's basically what we've done. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, yikes. You know, some stuff I'm not a huge fan of when I go.
I have opinions on my tastes and flavors have changed since I've gotten to the culture itself. I've grown my appreciation for the traditional ways of doing things is just, it's so funny. That's not how it started. It was in the beginning, but the more I've learned and the more I understand and the more I've talked to guys and different things like that, it's my favorite era and favorite way things get built and done. But with that being said, again, trying to because how do we continue the automotive culture?
Keep the passion. Yeah.
It's already bad enough because I experienced this. I got my 51 Chevy 4-door, right? 4-door. And I did the things I did to it. And I went to my first couple shows and I was looked down at. You gonna paint that thing? There's a lot of rust there. And it was just, I'm kind of glad those, unfortunately, some older guys that were talking crap to me. And I'm like, instead of appreciating the fact that here's a young guy, grabbed a 50s car.
Young though?
Well, you're right. Younger than them.
You were 40.
Younger than them. But they had, these pretty expensive hot rods and street rods. And they were looking down at me. And instead of embracing a young kid who was like, then show me what I need to know. Show me about this culture. Show me the things I should be looking for. What are some things I should be doing to my car? Instead of looking down at me, that's the part that frustrated me. So I swore at that time, I was not going to do that.
You're not going to be that guy.
I would have an opinion about what I like and what I don't like. That's my opinion. I'm do your opinion. But at the same time, I thought about, if I'm at a show and another guy comes, and it's what he can afford, right? This is what I could afford. Do I wish I had $40,000 to drop on a car? Yes.
You would go to those shows psyched about your car until you saw everybody else's and you're like, damn, there's so much more I want to do.
I got so much work to do and things I want to do to it. But it encouraged me to want to do more.
That's it.
And again, I'm grateful for the guys that didn't do that were like, hey, man, I like what you did. And hey, have you thought about this? And oh, hey, cool the way you did that.
As recent as Bug Jam. Yeah. You brought Kona to Bug Jam. And I'm sure there were a lot of people that looked at that and thought, what did you do?
Oh, sure. Why would you ruin a really good 60s car, VW?
I think your overall response at that show was, hey, this is different. This is really cool.
Not so different because it's not like I broke new ground and did something no one's done before. I think the way I did some of the things I did are my way.
Right.
But yeah.
But I mean, you had an overall good response.
Yeah, sure. And it's okay that some didn't like it. That's okay. It's fine. But again, the thing I'm talking about was here's a guy. These guys never saw me show up at a show. Rather than embracing and saying, hey, man, we're glad you're here. One more in the group. Hey, we got another one. Perfect. And nurturing that. It's like when we, the last couple Wednesdays, we've got a great opportunity to go up to this local little car shows. 10 or 12 cars show up. And there's a few muscle cars that showed up. And there's a few guys.
They're kids, like in their own little group.
Civics. Yep. There's a couple Civics that showed up and a couple of these new Kia, like there's Stingers or whatever, and they're all tricked out with lights and all kinds of stuff. And I could easily just go, oh, you know what I mean? And I'm like, at least they're here on a Wednesday night. They're not home.
Homebodies, yeah,
sitting in front of the computer pretending to drive cars or whatever. They're actually out and they've decided to dump some of their money into a car. And if the guy over here with something totally different and old, can show that guy respect, maybe the next purchase they'll go, man, those old cars are cool. Mm-hmm. And the people, that's why we got into the VWs.
It is.
We went to
the community was great.
We went to the VW show. Right. Mm-hmm. And the first show we went to, everybody was so nice to us. We didn't even have a car.
No.
And everybody was so nice to us. And we talked to it, asked questions, and everybody was cool. And that's when I went to you. I said, we need to get a VW. These people are neat. I want to hang out with these people.
Right.
So that's all I'm saying is as I'm sitting on my soapbox for the culture itself is, listen. Embrace these kids that are doing something a little different. And again, if it's not our flavor, it's not our flavor. Okay. But hey, maybe if we embrace and say, hey, come check this out. Hey, get in this. Hey, I love your car. Come sit in mine.
Yeah.
All they got to do is sit behind. There is no, listen, you want to sell the drug called hot rods and customs? Have someone sit behind the wheel of a chopped, sitting low, sick hot rod, and you're hooked.
Yeah.
You'll be like, ugh, give me some more. That's all I needed.
Tony said, the conversation is great. You can tell that you are a mini trucker. Yeah. He was big into that back in the day.
That was the same deal back then. Everybody looked down at the truck I had access to. That was another moment in my life to where it's always been that way for me. I've never been able to afford what the thing is. I've tried to participate in stuff, but I've never been the guy that's ever from jump had
the cool thing.
The cool thing that everybody goes, damn. I'm the guy that goes, okay, this is what I can get that'll get me in it.
I'm in the door.
And I'm gonna do my best to start then manipulating, moving my thing around to get it to look cool and me be different. And I'm gonna embrace my differenceness. And that's what I did. Differenceness. And even back then, I was the guy. There was tons of mini truck clubs. You know how many times John at that time got approached and said, hey man, want to join our club? And mine was slammed. It had a great paint for what I could afford. It had a great paint job, metallic blue, sunroof, tinted windows, had a good system, the whole thing. You know how many times I got asked to join a club? 0 times. 0 times. Not one single club ever said, hey man, want to roll with us? I was always rolling solo with my friends.
Oh.
Or I'd have one of my other buddies that would show up in like a 60s Mustang, Bruce. He came one time and we cruised. But for the most part, I was rolling solo a lot of times.
You're a bit of a loner.
And the same thing was with Raquel. When we were going to shows, how many clubs?
One or two times we rode out with some people. But
at no point did, hey, want to come hang?
No, we weren't invited.
You know who has done it? Our Detroit family.
Yes.
It's the first time in our existence in the automotive culture.
I have a beanie. I have a shirt.
we have the t-shirt. Yeah, that actually like embraced us and was like, hey, want to come hang out with us?
And yes, we will be there on Wednesday.
Yes.
Jay Newby from the group at the paint shop, Detroit Speed Shop, getting the hot rod ready for the show. Can't wait to see it. Michael Sr. said, Johnny, is there anything in the works with a collaboration with Ian again? Bringing one of your cartoon cars to the pavement like you did with that cool little Volkswagen.
I sure wish. Listen, yeah, I would love to collab again with you. In fact, I was talking to him today, talking about, oh, yeah, man, we need to get the band back together because I'm jonesing. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But that guy's got lots of stuff going on, and he's got his YouTube channel going on, and that's why I'm trying to do some stuff on my own and get another project and maybe add some content there.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. I'm grateful, even if we never collaborate on anything again, that at least I consider him a friend.
And you have your memories
like the corner of my mind. And listen, and again, I can go back to this point, which is we've collaborated on 4, kind of 5, because he's used a few little ideas I've thrown at this new project he's been working on in his channel, some things, and I've been grateful he's talked about that. But yeah, I mean, the guys that draw cars and do the things that I've done, and guys at way higher levels, there are a lot of them that don't have their drawings that are turned into cars. And
you're very fortunate to have had that opportunity several times.
I'm very grateful that it's happened multiple times.
And on a bigger level, to have the friendship that you have with him.
Yeah.
Bounce stuff. He's been a huge help with the Kona project.
Yeah, tons. I can, I'll, even to his frustration, I'm sure some days he's like, dude.
It's Johnny again.
Are you kidding me, dude? I told you this like 2 months ago. Why are you asking again? Are you an idiot? But he's always kind, and he's like, yeah, man, just do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
For him, it's easy. David Evans said, when I was a teenager, I used to bring my Volkswagen up to Steak and Shake, and the street rock guys all made fun of me. Aww.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So again, listen, that was the whole purpose of the Johnny 5 build.
Mm-hmm.
in my head of designing that stupid car was that the idea was you take the bug guys and the hot rod guys and you put them together.
Aww.
Like, you know, so there's hot rod stuff and there's Volkswagen stuff, and what's cool is it gets shared on both, like out in the universe and in the intranets. The Johnny 5 gets posted on hot rod sites and it gets posted on Volkswagen sites and it gets posted on weird sites and things that you hate and things that you love sites. There are people that love it and hate it.
Checks off all the boxes.
It does. And it was one of those cool things where it was like, hey, it was the mix of two things that really makes sense. Like all of it, you know, V-Dub's been around since 50s, 40s, really. So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's a cool shape. You can do so much cool stuff. Why do you think Ed Roth loved them?
Yeah.
Because they're versatile. Yeah.
Dalton Prince said a slam chop channeled and lower 54 two-door hardtop Bel Air is my dream car. Yeah. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, that's
how
pretty
do you
good.
have one? That's so hard for me. ADB was like tonight when we were trying to figure out a thing. She's like, just draw your dream car. I'm like, and we sat here, right? And I was like, okay,
which one?
ADB, you don't understand. She's like, well, you have an idea of the one you want. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking at anywhere from a 20, like a mid 20s to a late 30s would be the dream, right? Of that era. I said, but there are so many possibilities in that. And then really nothing says that I wouldn't love a 40s car or a 50s car or yeah. It's hard.
So we're back to square one.
You know here's what's crappy, babe. Since I've been looking for you know how many 49 Chevy 2-doors I've seen that are like in good shape, much further along than Raquel, way better condition in our budget, where I'm like, oh my God, this is a good, and I'm like, no.
I have a 51 at home.
Well, hopefully for not too much longer, but that's the thing is there's the problem with the addiction is there's no set parameters. At any given day, I wake up and go, oh my God, you would be so sick. You know what I mean? It's hard. 36 Ford. Oh my God. Oh, that'd be so sick. But a 34 would be, 30.
You got to stop looking. That's all he does.
25.
Constantly scrolling through.
Yeah.
Eligible vehicles. It's like you're on dating apps with cars.
Swipe left.
Yes. Let me know. Terry Lund said, I always tell people, if you don't like it, don't look at it.
Yeah.
Tat to Tank. Everyone hates my 67 Beetle with no fenders with 50-inch wheels on the back, but I'm the only one that has to like it.
That's right, man.
But it's the only bug in town with hot rods. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, again, do it the way you want to do it, build it how you want to build it, design it how you want to design it. And just be open to the fact that there are going to be other guys that are going to do the same thing. And then they're going to be the ones that are hey, I'm specifically doing it this way. I mean, there's some people that are pretty nuts about like building traditional stuff to where it's very like, hey, listen, if it's not specifically got this, and this, and you're not really doing it the right way. And it's like, I get that. Like, it's great that you're so passionate about that thing, but some of us don't have the budgets to do that.
Terry Lund said, I never refuse anybody to sit in mine. Love it when kids do.
That's the best.
We had the most fun. We had our 51 Chevy in rat rod condition.
Yeah.
In between these pristine paint job, $60,000 cars.
Yep. And more.
And we were creating such a crowd because we were interactive. If you can't tell, we like to be very interactive with everything we do. And we invited the kids to come. We had my daughter at one point was manning.
She was
this
so
book.
which is if she only had a clipboard.
Yeah. She had this little, we called it Friends of Raquel. And we got autographs and greetings from people from all over the world that were visiting when we used to go to Old Town.
We would make it. And that was the draw going to Old Town, was that it wasn't just a car show, but it was actually really neat that people from all over the world were coming and were going to see these cars that maybe they in the wherever they're from, never seen stuff like that. And there were lots of that happening.
Right.
And whether we could speak to them or understand the language that they were speaking, it was always like, do you want to sit in it? And they would always want to. And then I had, the Uga horn, and I'd let them push the horn, and it was just the smiles and the joy on their face of like, this is different. And that was my junky car that they were sitting in.
I was set up on the side doing tetanus shots before they got in.
So please sign this.
Yeah. We had waivers. Tony said, I've never been able to afford what I think what you would just called a Toyota Helix. Yes, I messaged you a picture of it, and you're always stuck your hand out and said hi to everybody, and that's how people stayed in any trucks. That's what you do if you're in the door and you share what you've got.
Yeah, for sure.
Mr. Dana Baldwin said, I love the old VWs. They're so simple to work on. I love reading How to Keep Your Beetle Alive for the Complete Idiot.
Yeah, I own that book, and fortunately, I can't remember what I did with it, but I think I opened it like once.
And you could use it now.
But there's where the problem is I'm so full custom to calling Ian and going, hey, I have my own walking encyclopedia of VW. What happens here? And he goes, oh, you just do this. I'm like, damn it. How does he just know everything?
Diamond said, Volkswagens are so fun, but the market is pricey as of now.
It has definitely gone up. Yeah, for sure. But the price, parts and stuff are still very affordable in comparison to a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Moose Man said, I thought it was so cool that you were in Maple Leaf Custom YouTube channel show when he did a copy of the number 5 car.
Oh,
you and
my
Ian
God.
did.
We were so grateful of that. So a gentleman there, Maple Leaf Customs, did a really cool die-cast metal basically tribute car to the Johnny 5, and I was fortunate enough that he sent it to me from Sweden. He's from Canada, but he moved to Sweden, and then he sent it from Sweden, and we received it a couple of weeks ago. I'd like to punch the U.S. Post Office or whoever mailed it, and it got damaged. So
it's not completely destroyed.
No,
a couple pieces fell off.
So I gotta re-put it back together. So I talked to him, and I'm gonna watch the video on how he assembled it and stuff and try to replicate that. But it was still very, very cool. And then he sent us Swiss chocolate too, which was
this
cool.
Was probably part of the allure, because he's like, look, you too can learn how to put it together.
I don't think that was his intention, because he did such a good job of trying to really encapsulate it and make sure nothing happened. And it basically looks like they kicked it from Sweden to here. So
that is a long way to travel in their defense. I don't know why I'm defending them.
I don't either.
Chuck Darnell said, too much pepperoni for a Jax. I don't know, but now I want pizza.
Yes. Oh my God, pizza.
Dalton Prince said, if you take a picture of my bubble on the left, zoom in on it, and you'll be able to see it's a half hot rod, half full Volkswagen.
Cool. Very cool.
Diamond said Volkswagen since 1937. David Evans said, no matter how many cars I have, I'm always car shopping. It's a car guy girl thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Diamond said, I'll have to check that. Moose Man Maple Leaf is epic, really amazing.
YouTube channel. It's so cool. Just such an amazing. It was so cool to just that. Again, it just goes back to the first car build and the first thing that got on TV, and it's become this thing that just it's out there somewhere. It's out there somewhere.
David Evans said, bringing others joy is what it's all about. I've owned my Herbie for almost 30 years, and I love giving people the opportunity to sit, ride, and drive Herbie.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to end it on that note. It's already after 11 here. We've been on the line here for an hour and a half. I'm gonna quick scroll back to.
Great show though. It was good comments.
It
and
was.
Great
we had
interaction.
a lot of interaction.
Yes.
There's what he started, guys. So you see a little bit of Johnny's. What did you call this one? A Model?
It's a 29 Model A pickup.
29 Model A pickup. Mm-hmm. Could be possibly one of the dream car. We don't know. Because it may change tomorrow.
So funny is for the longest time. I mean, for forever, I've been looking for fenderless, but there's been a few fendered vehicles that have come up, and I've thought, God, that would be so cool.
Because you know what? You could always make it fenderless. How hard is that?
No, it's not hard. And a lot of, to be honest, there's a lot of them where the fenders are all fiberglass anyways, because the old metal ones were so beat up and stuff. And so it's not that hard to turn it into fenderless type thing, but you wouldn't fender and then fenderless. Stay tuned,
guys, because we may have something like we said, we're going up to Autorama. We'll be there.
Hope to be picking Bob
on Wednesday.
Brain, who's that guy. He's found some great
he's
vehicles.
Always got some good deals. Yeah.
Well,
it's just all of those guys.
Not so much that the deals thing. I'm just more
I'm talking about cool cars
where he's been very good at finding some very cool
all
stuff.
Of those guys up there have cool stuff, and they have ins everywhere. Right. So maybe they know somebody. In any case,
let me know.
In any case, we are Autorama bound.
We are.
We plan to go live at some point during the show.
Yes, I'm bringing some small amounts of equipment. Oh, we lost
something.
Oh,
we're back.
Just go back to us.
Yeah, we're on us. Okay.
We're not on us.
Yes, we are. So we plan to go live at the show. We'll see what happens and what time we have, but maybe little impromptu interviews along the way. Maybe little daddy will want to share some stuff. Maybe Shaggy will want to say hi. We've got the Southeast Michigan Hot Rodders group, that gang, I should say, that may come by, and we may be able to get some of them on, and just little tidbits of saying hello to all these folks that we've been able to meet and make friends with, and that maybe you don't know if you hadn't gone on. So we talk about them pretty much every week. Well, so I'm sure you've heard the names.
You can honestly see why, because again, in the realms of our automotive existence and in the culture, it's not that it hasn't been individuals like you guys have showed up and supported and done those kinds of things, but this is like the first collective group of people that have been like, hey, you guys are cool and can be a part of our gang. I don't know how much we kind of muscled ourselves into it. They were at least accepted.
Invited.
They were very receptive, and have definitely made us feel welcomed and a part of the family.
David Evans wants to know what and where is the Autorama?
Detroit, Autorama.
Detroit, Michigan. Yep. Cobalt Hall.
Oh my God, this has been a bucket list since I, a long time ago, got into it and saw the first. You go back when they were showing like Boyd Coddington on TV, and they were talking about the Riddler Award and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the Super Bowl of hot rods, not realizing how many giant shows there really are. But it's always been a bucket list thing because it's in Detroit.
Right.
It's where automotive.
It's in the Motor City.
Yeah, it's where it was born, so it's been the bucket list trip. And then when we got to go last year,
bucket list tripped, and you didn't even know the people that we would meet there.
No,
people knew these people, this would be their bucket list
for sure.
to hang out with these guys. So
and again,
we get to do both.
Amazing stuff happens up top where all the custom, crazy, high dollar, amazing cars are.
The showroom,
such beautiful stuff up there, and that's where the stars go and all that kind of stuff.
Dee Snider is going to be there this year.
Whoopity doo. I'm just kidding. No, Dee.
Little Twisted Sister.
Come on, Twisted Sister. We missed the Fonz last year.
I know. Out. I am so mad.
Yeah, Henry Winkler. But we did see your buddy Smiley Smiles, Mr. McGuire. Yep. So that was cool. But again, with that being said, there's nothing like the basement. It happens in the basement. So if you ever make it to the show, definitely save time. Come down to where some really cool cats are, and that's my dog is going crazy over here by the microphone, where the basement is, because that's a fun place to be.
Clyde Hensley just said 22 cars competing for the Riddler Award this year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And we got to see the winner last year.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Cool car.
Well, everybody went to the show. Yeah.
But we were right there.
Oh, when they announced it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were there. That's when you got your McGuire picture.
That is when, right after the high of that, McGuire came over with a smile. Love that guy.
Oh, that was so funny because you walked up and you're like, oh my God, I just love your smile. And he was like, oh, you're precious. Come here, honey. He was a very nice gentleman.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, we're going to leave you. We may or may not have a broadcast Monday.
For sure.
We're flying back into town on Monday. We are supposed to be here before we would normally broadcast, but we may be a little busy with other stuff. So we can't guarantee we'll be here Monday. If we are not, please, between now and then, look for the lives. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube.
For sure.
For sure. And we hope to bring you some content from the show so you can feel like you're there with us if you weren't able to go. If you are there, we are going to be downstairs by one of the in the entrance doors. And come find us. Stop by. Johnny's going to be putting out some really cool art there.
We'll have some originals available. We'll be doing a drawing all day long.
We're going to have some merch.
Come pick it up. We'll have some merch for sure.
So lots to do while we're there. And if we'll definitely do a wrap up. If not next Monday, then the following Monday when we do our broadcast, we will do.
Please tell a friend, let them know that you enjoyed Sketchy Live,
yes.
The drawing, and of course we ended up becoming a podcast because the topic of conversation was going great and such a good
riveting.
So it was hard to. That was hard for me to concentrate on drawing because it was so.
Thank God you weren't chewing gum as well. It would have been a nightmare.
Sorry.
All right, guys, we love you.
We appreciate you all.
And we will see you soon. As always, stay sketchy.
We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
See you from Detroit.
Yeah.